original post. I'll pull up our live stream and we can follow comments there. So, hi everybody, thanks for tuning in. This is FMP Live Lunch, and
this is like the third edition, right?
Third week, going strong. Yes. And so, thanks for tuning in. We really enjoy getting to do this, and hopefully it's beneficial to you as well. We are in that awkward moment right now where we are still waiting for viewers to come in.
We have one viewer.
We're starting to get some viewers, so thanks for coming in.
So awesome. Thank you.
We are going to, I guess we'll get started. Matt, you were telling me that you had read something interesting earlier, right? Do you remember what you were telling me about?
I don't remember what I was telling you. I do. Okay. I was reading about like efficiency experts, and they were talking about people who, the way they manage their time, and talking about the beauty of simplicity.
Yeah.
And talking about, especially two guys, Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg, which is the creator of Facebook and was the CEO of Apple, right?
Oh yeah, Steve Jobs was, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And just their wardrobes. Simply, Steve Jobs wears a black turtleneck, or did wear a black turtleneck and jeans, and Zuckerberg wears, what's he wear?
It's a gray hoodie and jeans every day.
Yeah.
So,
and just the idea of removing the decisions that are simple to live simply.
Yeah.
I just thought it was kind of cool that the Bible tells us to live simply, and it's something that people are finding out actually is a really big blessing in their life.
Yeah, I'm kind of like that. I often compare myself to Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg.
I mean, you might mention us in the same sentence.
But I kind of do that because whenever I find a pair of pants that I like, I'll buy like 3 or 4 of those pairs of pants so that I can wear the same pair of pants every day.
Because, I just wear one pair of pants the whole week. No, not really. Not really.
Sometimes.
Don't judge me.
Depends on the day. So we're getting some viewers. Thank y'all for tuning in. We're glad y'all are here.
Hello, Kirk, by the way.
Yeah, we like to start off each week, I guess, each episode by kind of going through a few things that are coming up just while we're waiting for everyone to tune in before we get into the question of the week. And so, Matt, why don't you tell us what's going on overall, big church events that people need to be made aware of?
The first one is Family Promise is happening this week. We're hosting people in our building. And great news, all of the places to sign up have been filled out, so way to go, church. Good job.
Awesome.
But if you still want to be involved, I'm sure that Eddie Reed wouldn't mind having more people here, and one of the best ways to get involved in that is to just come and be an evening host. That just means come and hang out with families. Let the people who are cooking know that you're coming so they can make a little extra and you can have a meal and play some games and interact with those people.
Well, and just in case we have some people tuning in who don't know what Family Promise is, why don't you tell us, what is Family Promise?
Oh, Family Promise is it's an organization that homeless people in Midland can stay in a church building for a week, and there are several churches that partner with Family Promise and allow them to use their facilities. Okay. So we're one of those churches.
Okay.
And
awesome.
We had Family Promise families stay with us the very beginning of the year, and this is our second time. And we're hoping to have 2 more instances this year where Family Promise can come and stay, and we can host them. And so if you can't come this time, maybe you can come next time.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great opportunity to get involved and really bless some people who really need it. So I'm glad we're doing that. So I think that's great.
I think it's a great chance for us to minister to some people that need Christians to do that.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do we got going on in youth?
Youth-wise, I actually have a few slides. I won't spend a lot of time talking about all these, but this week is our spring retreat. We're leaving Friday, and so
what time are y'all leaving? I asked you this question this morning, so I think it's important.
Oh yeah, that's a good question. A lot of people have asked me that question. So we are going to be leaving as close to 5:30 as we can on Friday. So
So be here at 5.
Yeah,
if you can.
Yeah, I'm unlocking the vans and getting ready to load up at 5 o'clock. And just as soon as the last student gets here and gets on the van, we will drive out of here. So
awesome.
If you want to get here at 5, we could actually leave 30 minutes early. I know some people might not be able to do that. So just as close to 5 as we can get, and we'll be on the road and get out there as soon as we can. But I'm really looking forward to that. I think that's going to be a great trip. So that's the main thing that's going on right now. We have a lot of things coming up this summer. Encounter for high school students. That's in Lubbock at Lubbock Christian University.
Now, is that going into ninth grade, or is that currently in ninth grade?
Yeah, going into ninth grade through students who are graduating this year. All those are welcome. And
awesome.
So, an Encounter is awesome. It's a great week of growth. Out of all the events that I've ever done in youth ministry, this is where I see the most lasting change happen from one single event. I think, everything builds together, but I've seen kids go into a week of Encounter and leave and have the change that happens in that moment, in that week, last for years, sometimes even the rest of their life. They can point back to this week of Encounter, and I learned this lesson, or I heard this message, and it stays with them. And so I look forward to Encounter. It's one of my favorite things we get to do all year long.
I love the concept behind Encounter of youth ministers bringing one lesson and doing a really good job and teaching that lesson throughout the week. It's not you're preparing for the next lesson. You are teaching that one lesson that you've prepared for, and students coming in and really getting to hear an impactful lesson.
Yeah. And for those of you who've never been to Encounter, one of the things that's kind of interesting about it, with those Bible classes, we spend 3 hours a day in Bible class.
Yeah.
And normally at other camps I've gone to, when you say it's time for Bible class, it's like, oh, okay, I'll grab my Bible, I'll go to class. But at Encounter, because each teacher is putting on one class 15 times, they're able to put so much energy and resources into one lesson that these classes are amazing. And you actually see kids fighting, running and racing and shoving people out of the way to get to Bible class. Like that's how excited these kids are to learn and to hear and to experience these messages. And so
it's an awesome sight. I mean, just that alone, the running out of the Moody across the, I don't know what that is,
the mall area
to get to the classes where they can choose which class to go to. That is encouraging.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, and so it's exciting. So I'm looking forward to that. We also have Champion coming up, which is a similar camp. It's a lot smaller. Encounters there's usually anywhere from 800 to 1,200 people at Encounter. It's a big event. And then we have Champion for our junior high students, middle school students, that is usually just around 200 people. So it's a lot smaller, a lot more intimate. And people call it the junior high Encounter, but it's geared completely differently because it's specifically for junior high students. And it's all about active learning and playing and excitement and engaging imagination. And it's awesome. Like it's the best thing I've seen for junior high students, because they get to play all week and they get to, through that play, learn about who God is and how much God loves them. And it's just an awesome thing.
Same question as before. Mm-hmm. Is this for people who are currently in the sixth grade? I'm assuming it's sixth grade, or is it for kids that are coming into the sixth grade?
Going into sixth grade through just finished eighth grade. So there's one magic year that you could actually go to both.
Your current eighth graders could double dip if they wanted?
They could. Typically, most people, as soon as they're able to go to Encounter, just go to Encounter. There is that, like I said, that 1 year you could go to both if you wanted to.
Yeah.
But if I were to give a recommendation, I would say at that age, it's probably a better idea to just move up to Encounter and experience that. But if people want to go to Champion, I'm happy to take anyone to Champion. So it's great.
What else we got coming?
Last thing, Pine Springs, July 15th through the 21st, and that's also the same week as Op Camp. And so Pine Springs is a little bit different than our other camps. Instead of being on a college campus, it's out in the mountains, out in the woods, kind of more traditional cabin camping type summer camp. And that's for junior high and high school students. And so that's a great chance for all of our students to share that camp experience together. Our older and our younger kids get to kind of bridge some gaps and build some relationships across those age divides that kind of happen. And
it's a great, I love Pine Springs. The facility is fantastic. And the idea that the youth ministers are the ones that direct the curriculum, so you can tailor a curriculum for our students.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's fantastic, I think, because you know the students the best.
Yeah, instead of just showing up and having everything prepared, you actually get to, I get to work with a team of great guys I love working with that all get to bring their own students' experiences, their own students' context into what we're studying, and we get to make a week of camp that is hopefully going to meet our students where they are, in their own lives and help them to grow in whatever situation they find themselves.
Yep.
So I'm really looking forward to that. And then Op Camp is that same week. And how's planning for that going?
Planning for that's going really good. We're finishing up a couple of things. We actually finished up our scheduled training this past weekend. So our scheduled trainings are over. We do have a makeup that's not listed here on the screen, but that will be June 23rd. It's in that magic week between Encounter and Champion.
Yeah.
So that Saturday, June 23rd, midday, is when that's going to happen. But this weekend, I'm heading to Grandview. When you guys go to Glenrose, I'm going to head that direction also.
Awesome.
But I'm going to Grandview to do a training with another church to kind of help get them ready and help bring them along.
Awesome. And one other thing that we didn't have a slide for, but I think we need to mention it, is that in that same time frame of Encounter and Champion, the beginning of June is VBS.
Oh.
And that's coming up, and we're doing this year's
Jonah.
Jonah is the theme,
Yeah.
and so that's always that's one of my favorite stories
Great
in the
fish
Bible.
story. I love it.
Yeah, so and that's for what's the youngest age that can come to VBS? Is it all the way down to babies? Do we have like a nursery and stuff like that, or is it start at?
I think any age can come, but
Yeah.
I'm not positive. I'm going to have to check with Jason and Brandon, and if you have any questions about VBS, how you can get involved or other things like that, I think talking to those, Jason, Brandon, and Rich Gill, I think that would be fantastic. I'm going to have to check with them on that.
Yeah, and so I know we'll have all the way up to teen classes. I'm working on some teen classes, and then we have adult classes too for parents, and so really, so any age group can come and find something for themselves there.
I think so.
All right. Well, I guess let's get into our question of the week. That's kind of the main reason that we're doing this. And so why don't you tell everyone what was the question of the week this week, Matt?
All right. The question of the week was Mike spoke about truth and morality this past Sunday, and then in the last couple of weeks he's been talking about evidences for a creator.
Mm-hmm.
And I just asked the question, what are some of the evidences of the creator that encourage you? What are some other evidences maybe that Mike didn't talk about that encourage you also?
Yeah.
And we had several responses, and thank you for those guys. I want to go through a couple of those, and I just want to encourage you, even after the live lunch, if you guys want to comment and talk about what this is, we're going to try to engage this all day for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then maybe into this week. So keep commenting, sharing, liking, and doing all that stuff.
Yeah, I think it's great to keep the conversation going as long as possible, and keep thinking. Don't just let our lessons and our sermons be something that we hear on Sunday and then we forget through the rest of the week, but bring those things through, keep them fresh in our minds so that they're with us in everything that we do. So I think that's
absolutely great. It's how it becomes practical, I think, in our living this week.
Yeah. So we'll get into some of the comments that you guys have shared with us. This first one, I don't have the name. Do you remember who sent in this photo?
Linda Sego sent this in.
Okay.
All the way from across the country. She sent this to us. So thank you for that, Linda. But it just says it's kind of a fun image. It says, "I made all this out of nothing. Trust me, I can take care of you, God."
Yeah.
Which what a good reminder, right? That we can look at creation and God spoke this into existence, and I'm worried about things that are much smaller than that problem.
Yeah. Well, and I love it because, and I think it's a great way to start off the whole conversation when we're talking about what reminds us of God, where do we see God? Because, I mean, the Bible tells us that God reveals himself to us in all creation. And so we see it in the big, and you look at the universe and how big that is, but I mean, you look at a tiny blade of grass and there's amazing things happening in each individual cell in a blade of grass. Yeah. And so just the big and the small, that God is in everything. So
I like the idea of this. Reminds me of when Jesus is coming in and people are telling the Pharisees and everyone are telling the people to be quiet, and Jesus says, if these people are quiet, the rocks are going to cry out. And I think they do. Creation is constantly crying out and saying that there is a creator. Yeah,
and that's a kind of a common theme you'll see as we go through some of these comments. A lot of people point to some pretty miraculous things in nature that happen every single day that, when you really stop and think about it, are amazing. They're miraculous. I mean, there's no other word for it. And so, for example, we got one from Teresa this morning, and she sent in this. I don't know if you'd call this an article, a little blurb about the strength of a spider web. And I don't know.
I just don't like getting spider webs on me. Like whenever I have gotten the spider webs on me when I'm in the dark, and I'm glad nobody saw that because I probably look pretty funny.
Well, yeah, and if people see you from far away, you look pretty crazy because they don't know what
they don't know what's going on, and you just look like someone like raising your arms and just going flapping around like crazy. But it's amazing how strong something that small or slender is. Yeah,
and so there's two different ways that they measure strength in objects. And so this is nerdy right here.
Okay, nerd alert.
But there's tensile strength, which is strength of pulling it apart, and there's shearing strength, which is tearing it in half.
Okay.
And so the tensile strength of a spider web, pound for pound, is actually stronger than steel. And I think that's crazy. Like it takes more, if you had a pound of spider web all going in the same direction, to pull that apart is harder than to pull a pound of steel.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so they're actually, I read a thing several years ago, they're working on body armor based on spider web, synthetic spider web, because it's stronger than the materials that we have today. And so
that's awesome.
Yeah, God continues to inspire people through his nature. Like we look and we see there's something better than what we could come up with ourselves. And so we just got to steal from God. I hope he didn't have it copyrighted. So. But so anyways, I just think
doesn't have a copyright. That's good.
I think that's pretty amazing just to think that this little spider is weaving this web that we can tear through easily.
Yeah.
But then if you were to combine that into
it's one of those things when you look for it, you see it, but you take it for granted, like you're walking around in the woods and you don't necessarily look at a spider web and go, wow, God is awesome. Yeah. And sometimes you go, man, I wish there wasn't a spider web in my way, and I wish it wasn't all over my face.
Yeah, and not every strand in a spider web is sticky. Did you know that?
No. I didn't know I was going to get such an education.
I know a lot about spiders, but yeah, so a spider chooses to lay sticky web or non-sticky web.
Okay.
And he or she, I don't want to be sexist, he or she can walk along the web and knows where to put his feet on the non-sticky, and so he doesn't ever get caught in his own web. So
wow,
it's pretty interesting.
That is very interesting.
So anyways, that's spiders. Another thing that another comment that got sent in, I think this is also by Teresa, and this is a long one. Matt, I'll let you read this one.
Oh, thanks a lot.
There's some hard words in here.
Here we go. So the mouth is one of the more dangerous places in the human body in terms of what comes out and what goes in and what lives there. Fungi and microorganisms and viruses constantly come in with every bite of food and frequently just from breathing. In spite of all that, the tongue rarely gets infected, and when it does, it usually heals quickly. One of the reasons is the tongue secretes an antibiotic called lingual antimicrobial peptide. Studies done at the Something Research Institute. Oh, thank you. Show that the tongue secretes more antibiotic when there is a sore or an injury. I don't know about you, but I bite my tongue a lot.
That's the worst.
My mom used to call those lie bumps.
Oh yeah.
But apparently, my mouth was creating more antibiotics. So that's great.
Yeah.
Our bodies are designed to survive in a world that has all kinds of things that could do us harm. The tongue is only one small but important example of how design protects us from the dangers around us. And that's by I guess it's a company called Dandy Designs, or a group that puts this kind of information out.
Oh yeah.
And so,
well,
but they reference,
and say quoted National Geographic 1995. So it's pretty incredible, I think.
I think so. I think that your body as a machine is amazing, and a lot of these comments are about our bodies and about how God created us and how we are fearfully and wonderfully made.
Mm-hmm.
And just as we get technology to really understand how awesome God created us,
yeah,
I think that's just something our creation, our body, is praising God.
Yeah, well, and I think too, whenever you think about all of the things in the world that can kill you, like. There are tons of things in the world that can kill you, and some of them are just these tiny little microscopic things you would never be able to defend yourself against if it was just up to you noticing them.
Yeah.
But your body has these automatic defense mechanisms to protect you from deadly things all the time.
Yeah, and when those defenses are down, your body becomes very vulnerable.
Yeah.
That God created your autoimmune
system.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But I love it when my words fail me. But that He created that, and that keeps you safe.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Yeah, it is very cool. So,
what did Brandon have to say?
All right, next comment comes from Brandon Tobias, one of our favorite commenters, more regular commenters. He says, looking at the protein called laminin. And so I don't know if a lot of people are familiar with this, but this brings back a lot of memories for me. Cause this
really?
I don't know if Brandon's pulling this from this, but several years ago, 10 or 15 years ago, a guy named Louis Giglio did released a video, and it was called, I can't remember what it was called, but it was all about how big and how wonderful God is. And so he spent half of his lesson talking about just how enormous God is, and he has this comparison to here's Earth, and compared to all these different stars.
Talking about the stars and talking about Canis Majoris as the biggest star,
and Betelgeuse or Betelgeuse, however you want to say that. And I love that video because it was the first time I kind of blew my mind with how big God is. But the second half, he goes in the opposite direction. He says, look how small God is too. And so laminin is it's a protein in the body that actually holds our bodies together, holds all of our cells and our tissue, keeps us from turning into jelly, basically.
I'm glad we're not jelly. I mean, I kind of sometimes feel like
we're jelly-ish, but we're not jelly yet. But so this laminin, whenever you look at it under a microscope, this is what they find, and it's actually in the shape of a cross. And so
that's pretty cool.
So it's kind of interesting, and I don't know that I'm not necessarily one to read too much into things like that and symbolism, but I do think
just the fact that God puts something in us, no matter what it's shaped like, that holds us together.
Yeah, and that you can look at it and you can see the evidence of God in there, and you see something that reminds us of the Creator in the shape of a cross. Because I think, anytime you see the cross, you're reminded of what God has done for us. That's what the symbol is. And so just to be able to see that in our own bodies, in the very smallest thing that actually holds us all together, and just a reminder that it is God that holds us together, and not just in a physical sense, but He holds us together mentally when we feel stress. He holds us together spiritually when we feel like we can't do it on our own, and he keeps the world turning. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Sarah Kate sent a comment, and Walt actually sent it to her, and she sent it on. So thanks, Sarah Kate, for passing that along for Walt. But it says the perfect living conditions of Earth. The air is exactly the thing we need to breathe, to stay alive. We're the exact distance from the sun, not to freeze to death and not to burn up either. The gravity and spin of Earth is exactly right so that we don't fly off, but we still can walk and jump without difficulty. Some of us. So many things that couldn't be possible, that couldn't possibly be coincidence. So thanks, Walt, for sending that in.
Yeah.
And he's right. Just the distance of the Earth from the sun, the atmosphere that we have, the ability to breathe the atmosphere. It speaks to the fact that there's a designer, for sure.
Absolutely. And it reminds me that everything is spiritual. And I think that I'm stealing that from a Rob Bell video I saw several years ago.
Okay.
But he talks about this, and that in the physical we see the spiritual. There's not a separation between physical and spiritual. That God made us physical beings, but made us spiritual. That God made this universe physical, but that His Spirit is throughout it, holding it all together. And it's like all these knobs that He could have tweaked, and tweak it 1 degree hotter. Life can't exist. 1 degree colder, life can't exist. But He put that dial exactly where He needed to be. He set the Earth exactly how far away from the sun it needed to be and He tilted the Earth. That's one thing that I think is crazy too. You look at all the other planets in our solar system, and for the most part, their axis is about 90 degrees from the sun, and ours is, I think, 23.5 degrees tilted.
Okay.
And that's what gives us seasons. If it wasn't for that tilt, the weather would be the same all the time.
It would just be blowing all
no
the time
winter,
in Midland.
No fall, no spring, and that tilt is what gives us the 4 seasons, based on how we rotate revolve around the sun. That wherever we are, that tilt gives us our seasons, and that God
is amazingly creative. He is the creator. He's the one that created creativity, but just just in little things that we could take advantage of. Like if the seasons were always the same, like that wouldn't make God less God.
Mm-mm.
But the fact that he gave us variety like that,
Yeah.
It's just, he's extremely creative.
Yeah, well, and it shows, I think it shows the rhythm of God. And you see that in the story of creation too, that work and rest and work and rest. And you see cycles, all, even the life cycle, that birth, death, decay, and then that decay feeds new life. And that he is a cyclical God, and he took time to design all of these processes to happen in cycles and in rhythm, and
design them together to work in harmony.
Mm-hmm.
That's the amazing thing to me, because to design one thing and just have that work by itself, that's awesome.
Yeah.
But to design all of these things to work in a symbiotic relationship, I think that's the right word.
Yeah, that's right.
I learned something the other day. I learned that adrenaline shunts brain activity.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm going to use for the reason why I can't think sometimes. But just the idea that God works not just in one thing, but in all things.
Yeah.
So
we have one more comment. I did want to just take a second and just thanks again for everyone tuning in.
Yeah.
And we've gotten some comments, so I want to say hi to Lori. Thanks for that. Cassie, hope you enjoy your lunch. Linda, we're glad you're here too. And Anacella, good afternoon to you. So sometimes we get caught up in the conversation and forget to mention you guys, and so just wanted to say thank y'all for tuning in and being here.
We appreciate you guys. If we were here just talking, it would be great. But the fact that you guys are here makes it all the better.
That's right.
Don't mind J.E.'s arm.
Sorry about that,
we weren't plugged into the power source.
We were about to die.
We're getting close, getting a little dodgy there.
We can't make it through one episode without some kind of problem. So
we just like to be consistent.
That's right. So our last question, or our last comment, anyways, comes from Matt. Matt, right here, and he says, one of my favorite pieces of evidence for a creator is that even those that do not know him have a basic moral code, i.e., even primitive tribal peoples have a do not kill rule or law or guideline.
And I left a comma there instead of a period.
Yeah.
Apparently, I wasn't typing well.
There's more to come. So.
I wanted to say more, but I didn't.
Yeah. And I just wanted to jump in on this one, because this is one of my favorite, whenever you're talking about evidence of a creator, almost more than anything else. This is one of my favorite things, because I think you can meet non-believers, people who are actually opposed to God, and they have this moral code in them. They know it's wrong to kill. They know it's wrong to steal. They know it's wrong to, they know right and wrong.
Yeah.
And they learn that without reading the Bible, which has a lot of really great instructions. But to me, it shows that God, that's one of the best evidences of God, is that he created humankind with a built-in moral compass, that he put himself into us, that he made us in his own image, and showed the grace and the mercy and love. And like what Mike was saying yesterday, it comes back to, if you don't love your neighbor, none of that even really matters. But that if you love your neighbor, that sums up all of the laws, because we don't want to kill the people that we love. We don't want to steal from the people that we love. And if we live out of that love, that God continues to, that he's put all of that inside of us from almost from birth. And there's some instruction and some teaching that comes into it to kind of learn the nuance of morality and ethics and all those things. But
the basics are there.
Yeah.
I love that God puts in us, even if it's, I don't want to hurt somebody in my tribe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to kill someone in my tribe. Now, Jesus says, what good is it if you love only those that love you? He gives further instruction and says, we should love everyone.
Yeah.
And we should love God, and we should love everyone, which is a little bit farther. We look to Scripture and we get a clearer idea of what God intends, but God has laid the basics in our heart so that when we come to his word, it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, we're all born with the capability and the ability to love. And you look at little children and sometimes you have the mine, but you see a child wants to share. Like, and a child, whenever he sees another child crying, he knows to comfort that person, and that there's this innate goodness of taking care of people and loving people. And it's almost like we have to learn hatred, that's a learned behavior, but love comes naturally. And that's what God put into us. And we can learn to differentiate, and we can learn differences and learn separate, but the same is what's built into us. And so like we went to the park this weekend.
Yeah.
And me and Megan and Will and Katie, we were kind of walking around the little walking track, but Clark was just playing on the playground. Clark's our youngest, in case you don't know. And
he actually sat with me on Sunday, so
that's a big deal.
I mean, it's a pretty big deal.
But we just saw he just jumped in with this group of kids that he'd never met before. Didn't know him, and he's like, "You're my friends. Let's play together." And they just start playing, and they start laughing. And
I think anytime you go to like a pool or you go to a park or any place where kids gather, you see that happen, which is really amazing. I mean, it doesn't matter color, creed, nationality, any of that. I mean, they develop community naturally.
Yeah, and it's not until later that whenever we start to understand or think we understand anyway. So I think but when we start thinking about our own image, and my image is dependent on who I associate with, that's when we start to differentiate and say, well, that person is good for my image, so I'll hang out with them. That person's bad for my image, so I'll distance myself. Yeah. But at a young age, they don't care about image, they don't care about perception. All they care about is, here's some people, we're friends. That it just happened. We're playing on this playground, and now we're friends, and let's keep going. And so I think that that's the childlike innocence. And when you hear Jesus says, unless you have the heart of a child, that's one of the things. I don't know if that's all of it, but I think that's one of the things that he's talking about, that whenever we can look at people the way that a child looks at people, that we start to understand the kingdom all the better.
I was thinking, you talked about, focusing on our image, and God created us in his image, and maybe looking at our children is a great way to see what his image looks like, looking at the way they do develop that community, the way they are engaged with one another and break across barrier lines.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a way that we can see God's image a lot clearer. Maybe we can be God's image a lot better if we act a little more like children.
Yeah. Instead of telling kids to grow up, maybe we need to be more like them. So,
perhaps. Yeah. Sounds kind of like Jesus a little bit there.
Maybe. So, well, that's I think that's our last comment, at least the last comment that we received before we went live today. Yeah. So if you've made comments since then and on this thread, thank you very much for tuning in and interacting with us. We're going to sign off here. And just a reminder, we'll be back next Monday at what time? 12:15 is when we go live with our question of the day. But if you tune in a little early, you get to see us riff a little bit. And so
we're trying to get ready.
Yeah, we're making it up as we go at that point. But thank you very much for tuning in. Hope that this is a blessing for you. Hope that you enjoy the conversation at least. And I guess that's it. We'll see you next week.
Just real quick before we sign off, my kiddos sent me a couple of texts during this. I don't know if they posted them on there, but Abigail's wondering, what does the purpose gnats have? Gnats. Yeah. And the boys are just really amazed at the earth and animals and how the sun is placed or the earth is placed in just the right place for the sun. So I love that kids are getting on and that kids are commenting, and just encourage that. I mean, even if it's a silly question like, why did God make gnats or mosquitoes?
That's not a silly question. That is a legitimate beef, I think. So I think that's a good question. We may have to explore that answer someday. So.
There we go. Thank y'all for tuning in. Y'all have a blessed week.
Yeah, we'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.